Hi and welcome. This is going to be a quick tutorial video on how to install WordPress on a new domain. The domain I'm going to use is home-business.org, one of my test sites. If I go to the site in question, you can see that at the moment there's nothing on there, completely empty site. Okay, what we're going to use is a bit of software called Softaculous. Now there are a few different tools that come with cPanel. I'm on the cPanel for this domain at the moment. If your cPanel looks different, you can get access to the different themes. You may be on the X3 theme rather than Paper Lantern. That option should be either there or at the top here somewhere. But let's scroll down. What we're looking for is the software section. Here we go. Now I've got Softaculous app installer, which is what I'm going to use. There's another one called Fantastico Deluxe, which does a very similar thing, allows you to install different website software, including WordPress. Now there are other softwares that allow you to do it as well. They all work in more or less the same way. So when I go through and show you how to do it with Softaculous, you can pick up the same information and use it for whichever software you have on your website you're hosting with cPanel. Okay, so let's click on Softaculous app installer, and it will take us through to the Softaculous options. Now you see, as I mentioned, there are all sorts of different scripts that you can use here, as well as WordPress. You have Joomla, you have PHP bulletin board, all sorts of different things that you can use if you want to, but I'm going to stick with WordPress because that's what I'm used to. There is a demo and overview option available. Let's go straight into install and start filling in the information that we need. Okay, the first option is the protocol, and you really only need that if you've got a secure site, if you want HTTPS. So I'm going to leave that as is. It's picked up my domain name automatically. Then it's going to ask which directory I want to install WordPress in. Now the default here is WP, so it would actually install it in my domain /WP, which I don't want. So I'm going to get rid of that so that it will actually install it in the home directory at the root level. Okay, let's scroll on down and have a look at the other options that we have available. Okay, the first option is my site name, which I'm going to put in the actual domain name for the site name. Then we've got a site description. I've got one written out here. I'm just going to copy and paste this in. Basically a quick description of what the site's about. Do we want to enable multi-site? Unless you know what you're doing and you specifically want multi-site WPMU, I wouldn't bother. Okay, that is a bit more sophisticated than a regular standard blog. And I seem to have spelt that wrong. That's a good start. Okay, let's scroll on down. The next thing that we have is the admin account information. So the admin name, admin username and password. Now I highly recommend that you change the admin username from the default admin. I'm not going to in this example because I'm actually going to use this particular blog for another demonstration video showing how to change it later on. But if you leave it as the default admin, it actually makes it easier for hackers to attack your site, because when they're doing a brute force attack, they're going to use the default username of admin. If your username isn't admin, they're less likely to be able to get into your site. So highly recommend change this to something else. Your full name is a good example of something to use. So normally I would use my name there rather than admin. Okay, the next thing is you need a decent password. There is a password generator option here where it will generate a random password for you, or if you've got something yourself, you can type it in there. Just make sure you make a note of what it is, because you're going to need that later on to get into your site. Okay, then we have the admin email address. I'm going to put in my general email address. That will be the address to which I get notifications, and if I need to reset my password, that's the address that will be used for that. So it's pretty important that it's a good email address. When I say a good email address, an email address that you know that you're going to receive things at that address. Okay, language, obviously I've got mine set to English. You can choose different languages if you need. Plugins, I'm not going to select this, but I would actually recommend that you do if you have the option, depending on the software that you're using. Not all of them, when you're installing, will have this option available, but limit login attempts is a good plugin, and again it helps against brute force attacks, so I'd recommend that you actually choose that. Now again, depending on the software you're using, you might have advanced options available or not. If you do, the bit that you're interested in is changing the default database name prefix and the table prefix. The default is to start with WP. Again, if you leave it as WP, it's something that hackers know they usually start with WP, so it makes it easier for them to attack your database and tables. If you change that to something else, whatever it may be, 2 or 3 characters, and it doesn't need to be exactly the same for each, so change it up, make it something different, and it just makes your site that much more secure. Now again, you may not have this option depending on which system you're using to install, but if you do have the option for auto upgrade, I'd highly recommend you tick that as well. Basically, that makes sure that when there's a new version of WordPress released, your blog will update to it automatically, which is very good for security purposes. You can also choose to have your plugins and themes update automatically. I don't go for that option because if you're using a lot of plugins, that can break your blog if one of them isn't compatible with the latest version of WordPress. So I tend to prefer to do that manually, but it's up to you. You may want to tick those options as well. You should also choose an option for automated backups if you're going to use the standard WordPress version. I actually use a separate plugin for backups, which is more advanced and stores off-site backups for me, so I prefer to use that. So I'm going to leave it as don't backup, but there are options here. Once a week is generally enough, and again, that can be set up for you automatically. Okay, you then have the option to select a theme. Again, this is with Softaculous. Other installing software tools may not have this available. You don't need it. WordPress does have built-in default themes that you can use. And again, there are other themes that you can find that will suit your specific niche or blog, the subject of your blog. Okay, so I'm not going to choose one here, but you can if you want to, if you're using this. And I'm just going to pop in my email address so that it will email me a copy of the installation details. So the username and password and log on information. Obviously, it's quite useful to make sure you've got a copy of that so you can get into your blog. Okay, so now all I need to do is click on install and let it go away and install WordPress on my new site for me, which will take a few seconds. So I'm going to hit pause. There we go. It's already run through. It's checking the submitted data. Again, I will hit pause while it runs through this verification process. And of course, rather typically, the moment I hit pause, it's sped up and finished the installation process in like 2 seconds. Okay, so it has completed correctly. What I can now do is go back to my site. As you can see, it's currently blank as it was. I'll hit refresh. And once it refreshes, here we go. We now have our blog set up with WordPress, and we can actually click on the login down here and log in and have a look around our new WordPress blog. Okay, I'll just pause the video while I popped in my username and password, and I'm going to hit login. And here we go. We're in our dashboard. Our blog is all set up, ready to go. We can start making posts, adding pages, doing whatever we need to do. Now, there are a lot of other things that you should go through on the settings and tools to make sure your WordPress blog is set up correctly. And if you'd like to know what those extra changes and setups are that you need to make to a brand new WordPress blog, head across to trywp.com and pop your email address in and click on yes please, and I'll send you my 12 quick fixes and essential changes to get your blog up and running. These are things that you should do to every brand new blog for security, for speed, for search engine optimization, to make sure your WordPress installation is set up correctly. I'll also include the download or the download page for a tutorial video showing you exactly how to make those changes on your new WordPress blog as well. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Please feel free to leave comments below.